Hi, and welcome once again to Feedvisor's Ask the Amazon Experts webinar. I'm Gabby Young, and today I'm joined by Eyal Lanksa, Feedvisor's co-founder and Chief Technology Officer. Over 1,000 of you registered for this webinar to hear the latest buy box strategies today, so thank you very much for joining us. We've received hundreds of your questions, and most of them will be covered within the next 45 minutes and during the Q&A session at the end. If you do have any further questions, you can send them to us via your GoToWebinar player, and we'll do our best to fit them in. You can, of course, email any additional questions you may have to gabby.young@feedvisor.com. And at the end of the webinar, we'll be sharing a link to your copy of the latest edition of the Buy Box Bible. The Buy Box Bible is the ultimate guide to Amazon's Buy Box, so stay tuned till the end so you can get that link. For those of you who are not yet Feedvisor customers or you don't know very much about Feedvisor, we'll just give you the opportunity now to request some more information. So I'll just put that on your screen now. If you would like some more information about Feedvisor's platform and how we can help your Amazon business, please click on the relevant option on your screen, either for more information or you can even see a personalized product demonstration. So if you'd like to see it in action and how we can help your business achieve higher buy box sales at the best possible profit margin, click on the screen and you'll see how we can do that. So I'll give you a couple more seconds to get that done. Great. Now, this session will be recorded and you'll receive it in your inbox along with a copy of the Buy Box Bible later on this week. So moving on to our speaker, our Amazon expert, Eyal, leads a team here at Feedvisor that created our repricing algorithm for Amazon's Buy Box. And his expertise surrounding the Amazon marketplace, the buy box dynamics, and translating data into meaningful action is really unparalleled. So, Eyal, handing over to you, please tell us about your role at Feedvisor and what you know about the Amazon buy box.
Sure. Thank you, Gabby. So, as Gabby mentioned, I am CTO and co-founder at Feedvisor. In the past 6+ years, myself and my team have been researching data from Amazon. To date, our system analyzes several tens of billions of data points per day. So it's a lot of data to go through, but definitely very insightful for better understanding Amazon, the Amazon marketplace, notions in Amazon. And we'll be sharing some of these notions and insights with you in our presentation today. Over to you, Gabby.
Thank you very much, Eyal. So if we move on to the next slide, we can have a look at what we will be covering today. So Eyal will first of all give you a very short introduction as to what the buy box is, for those of you who don't know. Then we'll look at the seller attributes that are important and that the metrics that go towards the buy box. Then we'll look at business goals and constraints. And then the dreaded price wars on Amazon will be showing you how you can manage those. And then looking at buy box technology and Amazon technology. And then a view into the future and what's in store. And of course, as I said, at the end, we will be sharing a link to the latest Buy Box Bible. So Eyal, please take the mic from here, and we're really, really looking forward to what you have to say.
Thank you, Gabby. So let's start with a short introduction about the buy box. I'm pretty sure that most of you out there already know the importance and the impact of the buy box, but I want to make sure that we're all aligned on this aspect. So I remember seeing a sentence several years ago saying that the buy box on Amazon is not the most important thing. It's actually the only thing. And that is actually almost, if not fully true. According to our analysis, over 80% of the sales on Amazon go through the buy box. So you definitely want to show up there in order to have an impact, a positive impact on your sales and on your profit. But the challenging part is, how do you do it without compromising margins on one hand, but do generating enough sales, enough profit on the other hand? And to add the complexity to that, we know that Amazon's algorithm for ranking the buy box does not only account for price. It's not anyone who provides the cheapest price is appearing on the buy box, but it accounts for additional attributes like the ratings and like the shipping and so on. So your job, if you really want to optimize your performance in the Amazon buy box, your job is to better understand what your competitive edge over your competitors are, aside from the price, accounting for the other parameters, in order to place the highest price that will still give you enough buy box proportion. As competition grows, and we are seeing this trend over time, people, Amazon sellers are more and more using sophisticated tools for optimizing their pricing and improving their business performance. In this presentation, we're going to give you a taste of the complexity and challenge that you will probably see when selling on Amazon, so you could better understand your needs in this aspect and better assess the tools out there. So let's start. We mentioned that price is not the only factor upon which Amazon's algorithm works or analyzes. We know for a fact, after analyzing so much data, that it also accounts for other parameters. And here in this slide, we can actually see such occurrence, which occurs all the time. So what we're seeing here is a representation of two buy box winners. Each one wins in a different point in time. And we can see that the seller, represented by the black dots, actually sells their product above $8, above the one represented by the red dots. So here, definitely, price is not the only factor. There are probably other factors going in that affect Amazon's algorithm for pushing the first seller to the buy box. So what are the attributes that affect the buy box? So here's a set of very high impact attributes that affect the buy box. We're talking about item condition, of course. If you're selling new items, you're going to compete for the new item buy box. If you're selling used, you're going to compete for the used item buy box. Fulfillment channel, that has a very high impact. If you're selling FBA, this gives you several more points compared to FBM. Shipping time is very impactful. The less time it takes for you to ship, the more edge, the more advantage you have in entering the buy box. Seller feedback count, seller feedback score, and of course price. Price is of course very impactful, but as we said, it's not the only attribute that counts. I want to also say that the weight of the different parameters can change from product to product. For example, and let's move to just a second to the previous slide. For example, if you're talking about cell phones, which are quite an expensive purchase, you would probably want to buy it from a qualitative seller with high seller feedback score and count. And shipping time may be less of important to you. It doesn't really matter if you're going to get the phone in 2 days, 3 days, but you would want to buy it from a qualitative seller, high-ranked seller. As opposed to that example, if we take greeting cards as another example, here actually shipping time may have more weight because shipping cards are usually time sensitive. You want to make it to the event, not send the card after the event. I would assume that here seller feedback is a little bit less important in that case. So that's important to understand. We're going to talk about that later on, about the different changing weights that each parameter has in each given product. Here are additional attributes that we know that affect the buy box: the rate of defected orders, the rate of late shipments, how much on-time delivery orders you have, what is your cancellation rates, refund rates. Obviously, the more qualitative you are in these parameters, the higher chance you have to win the buy box with higher prices. So let's show several examples of buy box winners with higher prices than other competitors to just demonstrate the fact that this indeed happens. It actually happens a lot. So the first example would be this air cleaning filter. We can see that there are multiple listings here, some FBM, some FBA, and the one that is framed with a red rectangle is actually the buy box winner in this case. Now, you can see that this seller is fulfilling through FBA, and it has better rating and obviously faster shipping than the others. And that's why, even though they're selling the product at $24.3 higher than the lowest offer here, 29% change in price, they're still getting the buy box. So that would be one example. Let's give another example. This time it's, I would think, another air type of air cleaning filter. Again, here the listing with a higher price compared to the lowest price listing is winning the buy box. This time we're talking about an FBM that is seller fulfilled prime, SFP as we name it, and they are winning the buy box over other multiple FBMs where the difference in price is 17.89, which is 18%. Another example of an FBM who is a seller fulfilled prime that has faster shipping wins the buy box over other FBM with better rating, actually. And their price is higher by 19.48, which is 4%. In this example, a Lenovo docking station, an FBA, wins the buy box over other FBA back ordered. Back ordered means that you don't yet have the availability to sell. And here we're talking about a price gap of 34.88, which is 19%. They also win win the buy box over other FBMs that have worse rating and slower shipping, this time by $53, which is about 30%. So a lot of gap in price here just by the fact that they're doing FBA and have good rating. So that is with regards to third-party sellers against third-party sellers. Now, here's a question that we hear a lot, including as in the preparation for this webinar: how can I compete with Amazon? So before talking about that, I want to show you a picture of our kitchen in the Israeli office. And what you can see here is a sentence that was coined by someone in our support team, Mark Shipman. He came up with this sentence: when the gorilla is in the jungle, you don't get any supper. And he was using this analogy for demonstrating what happens when Amazon is in the arena. So definitely, indeed, a very challenging scenario. Amazon is obviously associated with the highest ranking parameters, and you need to beat them, at least in some parameters, in order to win the buy box over them. So in that case, you would aim for at least one of these targets. Have better availability of the products, have faster shipping, or, of course, have better pricing, cheaper price compared to Amazon's price. But this happens, and we can show several examples for here as well. In this screenshot, we can see a general purpose clamp. Amazon actually appears as the first listing with quite a cheaper price. And another FBM actually wins the buy box over them. And that is due to the faster shipping that they provide. And the difference here we can see is 3.7%, $3.7, sorry, which is about 41%. We can also see that on the Amazon orders, the shipping actually costs you if you're ordering goods under $25. So that's another reason for them not winning the buy box in this case. Here's another example where Amazon is in the arena, and again, an FBM wins the buy box over them. And again, this is because the same shipping factor that we talked about before. This time, the price gap is a little bit lower than what we saw before. Now, in this case, again, we can see an FBM that wins the buy box over Amazon. The thing here is that there's a tax difference between the Amazon listing and this FBM listing. In the FBM listing, we can see that there's an estimation of $0 tax as opposed to the ones we can see in the Amazon listing, which is $11.41 of estimated tax. So this may indeed be the reasoning for the winning of the FBM over the Amazon listing. So as you can see, it's definitely doable, feasible to win a buy box over Amazon's listing, but you will need to be better in some aspects compared to their listing. Otherwise, they have most chances, obviously, to win the buy box. So let's talk a little bit about how you can incorporate your business goals, constraints, processes into your buy box strategies. And this is the place maybe to say that each seller should have their own strategies according to their business goals and constraints. And it's not that one size fits all, obviously. So this is one of the most important lessons I would want you to take with you, that competing for the buy box actually starts way before you have listed your listing in the product page. It starts with the relevant logistics as a preparation for listing that listing on Amazon. So first of all, you of course want to improve your purchasing terms against your suppliers. The better prices you get from your suppliers, the more competitive prices you can place on Amazon, which gives you more room to play with and therefore win more buy box. Of course, you should try to continuously improve your seller attributes. We saw that the better attributes you have, the higher price you can place, and this can, of course, improve your margins. And another aspect is optimizing your fulfillment methods. Make sure that for each product, each category, you have chosen the right fulfillment method for you that will eventually provide higher margins after selling the product. So these all will enable you to place a more competitive price range, as we said, therefore increase your buy box share, hence your sales and your profit. And on the other side, when you improve your seller attributes, you increase your margins. because you can place a higher price. So if you manage to do all these things, or at least some of these things, you will definitely reach a better business performance. One word on seller fulfilled prime. This is also an increasing trend that we can see in the industry. Um, this is a tricky aspect of the logistics on Amazon. You need to understand exactly where and if you want to do seller fulfilled prime, in which regions, where's your competition coming from, where's your demand coming from. It's a little bit tricky, a little bit complex, but it actually can have a very, very large impact over your business performance. So this, another tip would be to look into this in the options that SFP provides for Amazon sellers today. Now I want to demonstrate an interesting insight that we saw in the data that reinforces the fact that the better and stronger listings you have with better attributes, the more room you have for competing on Amazon and for the buy box. So in this slide, we show that according to our statistics, FBA listings are about a quarter of the overall listings population, 25%. But when we look at listings that are involved in price wars, FBA listings are actually above 50% of that population. That means that FBA listings, which are by definition stronger than FBM listings, have more competitive edge and more room for competing over the buy box compared to the other FBM listings. We can see a similar phenomena when we're talking about the shipping time. Here we compared listings that are up to 1 day of shipping versus listings that are above 1 day shipping. We can see that 1 day shipping listings are about 20% of the overall listing population. But when we measure the amount of 1 day shipping listings that are involved in price wars, we see that they are about 60% of such population. So again, stronger listings have more capability in competing for the buy box. So let's talk about the business goals that we try to reach. The default goal that most, if not all sellers would like to reach is obviously maximizing their profit over their inventory. Now, the tricky part is to understand what exact price point indeed maximizes your profit. For example, if we're going to place the price in the lower prices, in a very low price, then obviously we will sell many items, but the margin will be very low, minimized if at all. So overall profit here would obviously be minimized. On the flip side, if we sell the product for a very high price, we probably won't get any or very, very few buy box appearances. Therefore, sell a very low amount of items, and even though the margin is high, the overall profit is obviously going to be, again, low. So the maximal profit point will usually be between those two extremes. So what we can see in this chart is a representation of what we try to do when identifying the maximal profit point. The orange line notes the amount of buy box share that is predicted to occur at any given price of mine. The green curve reflects the profit that I'm going to get according to the price point and the predicted buy box share. So once we understand this function and we reach it, we can actually know at the exact time where the maximal profit lies, at which price point. That is basically what our algorithm tries to do. So to sum this slide up, we basically try to maximize profit, trying to understand at every point in time where that profit maximization will be, meaning in which price point. In addition to maximizing the profit, we may want to apply different goals or constraints. For example, apply a minimal margin constraint or a minimal slash maximal velocity over the buy box strategy, or place an out of stock date, the date upon which we want to sell our inventory for the product, and try to adjust towards that date. So these will be additional things that we may want to account for when constructing our strategy for the buy box. So we talked about profit optimization, and of course, in order to optimize and calculate profit, you need to make sure that your cost structures are very accurate and are in place. Now, this, as you probably know, can be quite tricky because there are numerous aspects for cost. We can talk about costs of goods, advertising costs, shipping and handling costs, referral and closing fees that you pay on Amazon, the returns that you need to account for, additional costs. It's quite tricky at times, but we just don't have any way around this. If we want to maximize profit, we must understand our profit. And here's another angle for accounting for our business processes when we construct our strategy for selling and for optimizing the buy box. So we should account for our supply slash demand levels. For example, if a product is not replenishable, we should probably be less aggressive than we would usually be in terms of pricing, because the product is not replenishable anyway. So let's try to make the highest margin that we can on the product. Another case where we identify a trend of demand that is declining, we probably need to be more aggressive in order to sell all of the items for this product as soon as possible, because soon demand will be minimized and we may get stuck with this inventory in our warehouses. So basically, according to your supply slash demand levels, you would want to be more or less aggressive in your pricing strategies for the buy box. Price wars. Price wars on Amazon. So price wars on Amazon are actually a big deal. And if you want to really optimize your performance, you need to know how to manage these price wars. They will tend to occur in products where there's higher competition, but obviously higher GMV, higher dollar amounts that you can make or lose. Therefore, you must make sure that you manage them right. Let's look first at the definition of price wars. A price war is a commercial competition characterized by the repeated cutting of prices below those of competitors. In our case, all this for winning the buy box. So here's an example of a price war. You can see a representation for two different sellers, and each line, the red one and the gray one, represent the price levels in which each seller is at each given point in time. So you can see that each one reduces in their turn, reduces the prices. And overall, this price war lasted for relatively short time, for 17 minutes. And the amount of price reduced from the initially price point is actually quite minimal. We're talking about 0.02%. Here's another example for a price war. This time it lasted longer. We're talking about 24 hours, and the price decline is more substantial. We can see a price decrement of 30% from the original price. Now, another interesting aspect here is that you can see that both competitors involved in this price wars actually change tactics over time. In the beginning, their price decrements is quite minimal at each turn, but then they turn to lower the price in a much more substantial decrements compared to before. So again, things can change even between two sellers selling the same product at the same time. And here's a third example of price wars. This time we have three competitors competing for the buy box. And the interesting thing here is that two of them have more or less the same tactics. They reduce price by quite a minimal margin at each time, where there's a third competitor reducing prices in a different patterns, actually reduces it only every several iterations, but when they reduce it substantially. This, by the way, can represent a manual price change that occurs every several hours. So let's look at some statistics of price wars. First of all, duration of price wars, how long in terms of time price wars last. So we can see that the majority of price wars last up to 4 hours. 16% we can see that lasts between 5 and 6, and so on and so forth. So most price wars are, we can say that are lasting for several amounts of hours, usually not more than that. Another interesting statistic that we saw when we analyzed price wars data is that the vast majority of price wars, at least today on Amazon, involve two distinct competitors. Another almost 8% involve three. The others involving more than three competitors are a very small proportion of the price war population. So let's talk a little bit about how to manage price wars after we said how important it is. And here we split it to three main buckets. First one is learning the arena that you're selling at. Second one will be knowing your competitors. And the third being a market maker. So let's look at the first bucket of learning the arena. So as we said at the beginning of this presentation, more and more sellers are turning to automatic tools for pricing their goods on Amazon, but you still have some that are doing it manually, therefore changing prices only once in a while, infrequent price changes. And what we can see here is a case where you have multiple sellers. Most of them don't touch their price, therefore they're not effective sellers. Only two of these, the ones represented by the changing gray and changing red lines, are changing their prices, and they are actually the competitors for the buy box, where other sellers here are not getting the buy box. So first thing you need to know is who are your effective competitors, who you need to compete with, and who you don't need. Another aspect of learning the arena is trying to understand what is the realistic buy box share you need to target. Obviously, if you will target a non-realistic buy box share, you'll probably generate more price wars than you should, racing to the bottom, decreasing the prices, therefore decreasing margins. It's definitely not ideal. And once you better know what the realistic share is, according, of course, to the competitors being in the arena, you can better tune your tactics towards that share. What is your competitor's repricing method? So here we can see two methods, right? We have the two competitors here, sorry, that reduce prices, and one that doesn't reduce prices, that actually uses a fixed price. Let's assume that you are the red seller and your competitor, your black seller competitor here, leaves the arena, then now you can employ a whole different tactic, assuming that you know that the gray seller here uses a fixed price. You can just be 1 cent or 2 cents or whatever below them and win all the buy box. So a very important aspect of knowing how your competitors reprice. Another aspect of knowing your competitors is understanding how low can they go, what is actually their estimated floor price. Again, similar to the previous slide, but this time you can also apply it on the automatic tools and changing prices. If you identify the floor price of your competitors, again, you can just place the price right under them and win more buy box or all the buy box in this example, because they just can't go below that point. We saw this slide before that describes your capability in winning the buy box with higher prices. It's very important in this aspect to understand what your competitive edge over your competitors is, whether it's positive or negative, but understand it in order to understand what is the highest price you can place above your competitors or under if your competitive edge is negative, and win the buy box. So this is a very important aspect in employing your buy box tactics. We're going to talk about this soon. So being a market maker, it's very important that you are proactive in your approach to pricing and to competing for the buy box, meaning that you should try, when possible, to increase price levels in your arenas, assuming that the others will follow you. Now, we analyzed this aspect, and we saw that about a third of the price wars identified are what we call reverse price wars, meaning that the price is gradually increased rather than decreased. Now, this means that you have a great chance of pulling up the market with you. Therefore, you should try, at least where it works, to indeed increase price levels every once in a while in order to bring the price levels up and obviously improve margins for yourself as well as your competitors. Technology.
Eyal,
Yeah.
we've had quite a few questions about price wars.
Sure.
So I'm going to ask two of them now because I think now's a good time to kind of get that information. So one of them is regarding price wars. What about if a seller is using a temporary promotion, such as a coupon, buy one, get one free, compared to actually lowering their prices using repricing or manually? Is that taken into consideration in the price wars charts that you showed us?
Right. So that can indeed provide an edge for that seller over the other sellers in the arena, because as we mentioned before, every attribute that does well, does good with the consumers, can actually improve the chances of the seller to win the buy box. So definitely, this would be one of the aspects or factors that the buy box algorithm takes into consideration when deciding who's going to be in the buy box.
Okay, great. Thank you very much for that. And then the other question is, after the price war ends, in the examples that you showed, do the sellers settle on the last price, or do they kind of reset, go back to the original price, and then the whole thing starts again? What's the typical pattern that we see?
Right, so that depends on the seller actually. Price wars usually end when one of the competitors reaches their floor price, okay? But if they're a smart competitor, they would try to increase their prices up again and start the whole thing from the beginning. If that happens, as we said before, it does well for everyone, including them and us.
Okay, fantastic. Now one more, one more on the
Right.
price wars. This has been like the most popular topic on the
Sure.
questions. Okay, so one of our sellers said it sounds like price wars is a ton of manual work. Maybe you can explain how trying to compete in price wars is not always a manual thing, and actually some software can help with that.
Sure, sure. So, of course, it's not something that you can do manually. We can see that some price changes occur in seconds, in minutes. It's not that you can, 24 hours, 7 days a week, sit and change the prices all the time for all your products. So you would definitely need a technology here that will do it for you. The whole question is how intelligent that technology will be, meaning that it will know exactly when to elevate prices, when not to elevate prices, do all the things that we said before, learn about the arena, about the competitors, take all that into consideration before making the price move in order to for you to reach the best performance you can.
Okay, brilliant. So to answer your question, Veer, you don't need to be glued to your computer to be able to make all these price changes. There are solutions out there like Feedvisor who can help you manage that pricing automatically. So let's move on.
Sure, sure. Great. So, speaking of technology, this would be our next chapter. So before we dive into the two main types of technologies out there, let's set up the stage for the challenge that these technologies need to cope with. And the main challenge here is that everything can change, especially in such a dynamic arena as the Amazon marketplace. The competitors' characteristics can change over time. For example, the ratings, or the example that you gave before, the coupons, and so on and so forth. Competitors can actually go in and out. So that can also change drastically the arena. They can change their floor price or their other business strategies. Competitors can change their tactics, their tools, and so on and so forth. And finally, Amazon's buy box algorithm can also change over time. So you need to make sure, if you want to optimize your performance, you need to make sure that you're accounting for all of these. And of course, you can't account for them manually. You would need a tool that accounts for all of these changes that can occur. So the two main families, I would say, of repricing technologies are rule-based technologies and algorithmic/artificial intelligence technologies. Uh, the latter one is where Feedvisor resides. That is our approach to solving this business problem. So when we're talking about rule-based, we're talking about rules that are set manually. They are prone to human bias. They don't actually analyze the data scientifically. It's more of placing rules according to gut feelings. These rules tend to focus on lowering prices and not necessarily trying to optimize the arena by, from time to time, elevating the prices, increasing them. They're not optimized for maximizing profit because they lack the element of understanding what my competitor edge is over my competitors, and they are slow to capitalize on the changing market conditions uh, simply by the fact that they are changed by manual operations and not automatically. So once the rule is changed, maybe it can adapt to the changing market conditions, but it's not in a fast fashion. On the flip side, when we're talking about algorithmic / AI technology, so first of all, the rules are obviously set automatically. They are set based on machine learning that is based on big data, a lot of data points. As I mentioned before, our system crunches tens of billions of data points per day. It's a lot of data to learn from and make much more intelligent conclusions, decisions. Um, we're using statistical methods for maximizing the profit rather than leaning on our gut feeling, as mentioned before. And of course, we adapt to the changing market conditions and Amazon's algorithm. Now, here's an interesting point that I would add. As we saw before, some of the attributes of seller attributes, specifically competitor attributes, are visible, but others are not visible. And we know for a fact that Amazon's algorithm takes various considerations also according to non-visible parameters. Now, we don't have visibility to them. Of course not. Nobody has. But what we can try to do is adapt to the changing consequences on Amazon and on the arena. For example, let's say one of our competitors had a complaint last night that they were selling fake merchandise. And because of that complaint, Amazon suspended their ability to reach the buy box. Now, we don't have that explicit data point, but what we can see is that from then on, they stopped winning the buy box. Therefore, the algorithm will adjust to that reality. And in that case, we'll be able to increase our prices way above since this competitor is no longer effective. So that's another very important aspect of algorithmic and AI technologies, being able to adapt to the reality on the marketplace, even though they don't possess all the data points which are only visible to Amazon internally.
On that note, I would like to see a show of hands from our audience here today on how you reprice your items on Amazon. So it would just be really interesting to see how many of you use artificial intelligence or an algorithmic repricer such as Feedvisor, whether you use a different repricer, which is rules-based, whether you actually reprice manually, or if you don't reprice your items, or maybe you're a private label seller and your items don't compete for the buy box. So if you click on the relevant option on your screen now, then we can kind of get a good look at what most people are doing, and a lot of you are repricing manually. So maybe you may have learned a thing or two today about how this could make your life easier. Having a repricer could actually free up a lot of your time to do other things that could be very important for your business, such as scouting new products, looking at all your costs and seeing how you can increase your profit on the bottom line. I'll give you a couple more seconds to do that. It's nice to see that lots of you are also using Feedvisor. Okay, thank you very much, everybody. And Eyal, I'm passing it back to you.
Thanks, Gabby. So let's talk a little bit about how algorithmic / AI technologies will do their magic, adapt to the market, changing market conditions, as we said before. So machine learning models can analyze different parts of the data and try to gain insights, trends, patterns. Each model can gain patterns, insights, and trends over a different aspect. So what you would like to do is have all these models in place, each one responsible for a different angle of the arena, and then combine them all together through machine learning techniques until a final reasoning, a final decision is made according to all these different models. That is basically what we and every other AI-based solution try to do, come up with the right models, train them in the best fashion that we can in order for them to best assess the current situation and take the right decisions. So here's an interesting question. Who is behind most pricing actions on Amazon? So the picture obviously hints what we're going to say shortly after. But just a second, I want to show you some statistics in order to make the case. So what we're seeing here is the weekly seasonality of orders generated across days of week. We can see that um, Sunday will usually be a rather weekday, same for Saturday, Monday, a stronger day for orders. And this patterns repeats itself in each and every week. Now, of course, orders are obviously triggered by human beings. Human beings have their weekdays, their rest days, and they obviously behave in this aspect of ordering goods in a specific pattern. Same thing you can see in the seasonality over the day. Here you can see 2 days that reflect the amount of orders within those days. Each line represents a different hour and how many orders were ordered in that hour. And again, we can see a very clear seasonality, very clear patterns of orders ordered at each hour. Again, the humans have their hours for orderings and hours for sleeping and so on and so forth. That's why we're seeing these clear patterns. But as opposed to that, when we measure the amount of price changes over the week here, for example, Sunday through Saturday, there's no clear pattern of when there are more orders and when there are less, right? Approximately more or less each day has the same amount of price changes. And same thing we can say for the hourly seasonality. We can't see a clear pattern here. There are not more orders in the day versus night. More or less the same amount of, sorry, price changes, not orders, amount of price changes over the hours throughout the day. Now, I would say that this suggests that most price changes are actually being made by machines and not by humans. And this is what turns Amazon specifically and e-commerce in general to a more perfected market. The more machines there are, the higher the frequency of changes that occur, and the more perfected the market becomes. So, to conclude on this presentation, let's have a little peek to the future. We analyzed the trend of price changes in the buy box, not just any change, but changes in the buy box. And we could see that over time, there's an increasing trend in price changes. Now, as of today, according to our analysis, there are about 5 billion price changes made each day. That's a huge amount of changes. And we can just see it grow and grow over the years. So this is definitely the name of the game. It's going to be more and more dynamic as Amazon's market share it continues to grow. And therefore, sellers have to account for this and use the right tools for competing with this very, very dynamic marketplace if they want to better perform and maximize their business goals. So that would conclude our presentation. Let's move on to Q&A.
Yes, so we've had lots and lots of questions coming through. We may not be able to get to all of them, but lots of them are actually answered in the Buy Box Bible, which we will be sending around very shortly. So a couple of questions for you, Eyal. First of all, is the buy box percentage number on Amazon reports the percentage of time that you are in the buy box, or the percentage of time that you win the actual sale for that ASIN?
No, so it's actually the first one, the percentage of time that you were in the buy box.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you for clarifying that one. And then the next one is, how often does the buy box actually update?
Right. So, according to our analysis, there's no systematic or constant frequency for updating the buy box winner. It changes from product to product. It sometimes can happen every 15 minutes. Some other times it can happen every 15 seconds. And this very much goes along with the notion that things always change in this marketplace, and it changes from product to product, from time to time. It's not something that you can know a priori.
And which is why it's not such a good idea to reprice manually. It's going to take you
Right.
lots of time to try and catch up.
Another good reason, yeah.
Okay, so another one about beating Amazon. So there was a question about how you can beat Amazon in shipping speed when the product is already in their FBA facility. So how can you be quicker than Amazon on shipping? How can you compete with them on that?
Right. So one of the examples that we shown before showed that Amazon listings was actually not available. It was in back ordered state, meaning that it did not yet reach the warehouse. And those would be the opportunities you could have in beating them in the shipping time.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, and the last two. So with books, I know in the past, it's always been Amazon's been winning the buy box for books. How does it work now, with people who are selling books?
Right. So just over a year, Amazon opened the buy box in the books categories for all third-party sellers as well. So this is definitely an opportunity to play better there in this category as well, as opposed to what happened before, where only Amazon showed up as a default listing or the buy box listing.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you. Now, the last question, we had quite a few people asking, is Feedvisor only a repricer? And can you help sellers with other challenges?
Right. So no, Feedvisor is actually not only a repricer, it actually tries to identify all the aspects, all of the business challenges that Amazon sellers have and provide a solution for these challenges. I can tell you that if we spoke today about the buy box challenge, there's a whole big other challenge for private labelers, private label sellers that don't compete for the buy box. They compete more over the search, over advertising. It's a whole different ball game. We're not going to expand it here, but definitely something that a majority or a main proportion of sellers account for. Um, Another area would be helping sellers better optimize their inventory levels, suggesting if to replenish a product, and if so, how many items to replenish, at which cost, if to scout new products. This is another angle that we help our sellers with. And the third one would be advising for sellers over their advertising campaigns, making sure that they're seeing the full spectrum of data over their advertising campaigns and performing accordingly. So, definitely additional aspects that we provide in order for our customers to better perform, not just over the buy box aspect.
So, thank you very much, Ayal. If you would like some more information about Feedvisor, we're giving you another opportunity now to either request a demo or just to receive some more information. Click the relevant option on your screen now, and you can find out all there is to know about Feedvisor. You can ask all the questions that you have about how we can help you with not only repricing, but also with helping make better inventory decisions. And because we have all this data from Amazon, we're really able to help you make better and more accurate and faster decisions for your Amazon business. So I highly recommend to request some more information. I'll let you do that for a couple of minutes until we send you your copy of the Buy Box Bible. So while you're doing that, you'll be able to see that in your chat box, I have sent you a link. And if you click on that link, your Buy Box Bible will download automatically. So no need to fill out any forms or landing pages. You've already registered for this webinar and we promised you the Buy Box Bible. And that's the new look, as you can see on your screen now. So we hope you enjoy it. The Buy Box Bible will cover a lot of the questions that you have asked in this webinar. It will cover everything that Eyal has told us and a lot more. It goes into details about the different variables that affect the buy box. And it's definitely something that you should keep either on your desktop or on your physical desk at all times to refer to and make sure that you are really maximizing your opportunities to make as much profit as possible. Now, if we move on to the next slide, you can see our contact details there. If for any reason you do need to contact us, or you just have some more questions or would like to get some more information, there are contact details. And in the meantime, I would like to say thank you very much to Eyal for your time. Thank you to our audience for being so active and asking such interesting questions. We know we haven't been able to get back to all of you, but the time's up now, and you can just email me gabby.young@feedvisor.com and I will do my best to answer all the questions. So have a great week, and you will receive the recording in your inbox along with the Buy Box Bible in the next couple of days. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thanks, Gabby. Thank you all.
Goodbye.